If you pull out your smartphone right now, open any social media app, and just scroll for maybe 60 seconds.
Yeah, mathematically guaranteed you're going to hear it.
Exactly. You are mathematically guaranteed to hear a specific piece of carved hollow wood.
It is completely unavoidable.
It's everywhere, except, well, here's the deception. That piece of wood doesn't actually exist.
Right.
Welcome to the deep dive. If you're joining us, it means you are the kind of insanely curious learner who doesn't just want to, bob your head to a track.
You want to know how the machine was built.
Right, why it works, and how it's basically pulling your physical strings. So today, we have this fascinating mission. It's based on a brilliant musical and cultural column from Monumental Movement Records, or MMR.
It's a great piece.
We are uncovering how a single, bizarrely engineered bass sound just completely hijacked global dance music.
Yeah, we're looking at Amapiano.
Which is everywhere right now.
Literally everywhere. It's a genre hailing from South Africa. And while you've definitely heard it, our focus today is specifically on its beating heart, which is the log drum.
The log drum.
Right. We're going to deconstruct the musical history, the acoustic engineering, the rhythm, and the cultural impact of this sound.
Because it proves that the deepest music is about so much more than just pushing volume.
Exactly.
But before we look at how this sound took over the globe, we have to look at the deception at the center of it all. Because when I hear, the words log drum, the immediate image I get is this ancient acoustic instrument.
Like someone sitting in a village playing a carved-out tree trunk.
Yes, exactly. Just literal wood.
And traditional log drums are very real. I mean, they're ancient percussion instruments made by hollowing out wood and cutting slits into it. They're used all across Africa, Asia, Oceania, and they give off this really resonant, pitched tone.
But the MMR piece highlights something crazy.
Yeah. The log drum that is driving modern Amapiano involves zero actual wood, none. It's a completely synthetic illusion created inside a computer using software synthesizers.
Which is wild because it sounds so organic. It's basically Sonic Impossible meat.
I love that analogy.
Right. It's built in a lab by a producer sitting on a laptop, but it perfectly hacks your brain. You feel the organic texture and the warmth of the real thing.
Yeah, it genuinely resonates like physical wood.
So why do that? Why fake it?
Well, the producers engineer it to trigger a specific organic response. And to understand why they needed this very specific synthetic prefile, we actually have to look at the origins of the genre.
Okay, take us back.
So, Amapiano means the pianos in Zulu.
Okay.
And in the early 2010s in Pretoria and Johannesburg, it was essentially a localized, piano-centric, deep house variant.
Got it.
Heavily influenced by kwaito, soul, and jazz.
So it was slower, moodier, lots of lush electric piano chords.
Exactly. But the log drum wasn't the star yet.
So what changed? I mean, why didn't they just stick to standard deep house bass lines?
Necessity. Honestly, standard house bass lines were just blending in.
Okay, how so?
In South Africa, a massive driver of musical culture is the minibus taxi system.
Oh, right, the taxi?
Yeah. These taxis are out on the streets, windows down, blasting music from these massive custom sound systems.
I can just imagine the noise level.
It's chaotic. If a producer wanted their track to become a hit, it had to cut through the engine noise, the street traffic, and just the rattling metal of a moving minibus.
That makes sense.
A standard, smooth sub-bass just turns to mud in that environment. You literally can't hear it.
It just gets swallowed up.
Exactly. So by the late 2010s, local producers realized this synthetic, woody, resonant log drum sound punched right through the chaos.
Wow.
It became the sonic signature they absolutely needed to stand out.
So once you have a completely synthetic sound, you aren't bound by the physical limits of a real acoustic instrument.
You can do whatever you want.
Right, which is where producers started using this digital impossible meat to just rewrite how a dance track is fundamentally structured.
Yeah, it completely flips the rule book. Because in a standard house track, there's a really strict division of labor.
Like different instruments doing different jobs.
Exactly. The kick is the pulse. The bass line provides the low-end groove. The chords handle harmony. And a synth or a vocal takes the melody.
Everyone stays in their lane.
Right. But in Amapiano, the log drum takes on all those roles simultaneously.
They're just doing everything.
It's a massive multitasker. It provides the heavy low end. Its percussive attack drives the rhythm. Its distinct pitch plays the actual melody.
And it acts as the primary hook.
Yes.
I mean, it literally sings. It pitches up and down like a conversational storyteller, which kind of makes a traditional vocalist entirely optional.
It does.
But wait, I have to push back on this a little bit.
Sure.
If one single instrument is suddenly doing the job of 4 different elements,
Yeah.
doesn't the mix end up sounding incredibly thin?
You would think so, yeah.
Like, if you're used to a massive traditional house track with 50 layers of synths and vocal chops, stripping it down to one multitasking piece of digital wood sounds like a recipe for a totally empty dance floor.
The initial assumption is definitely that fewer elements mean a weaker track. But the MMR analysis points out that this actually creates a unique kind of density.
Density? How?
Well, when you stack 50 layers of sound in a dense mix, the human brain often just glazes over it. It becomes this generalized wall of noise.
Oh, that's true. It all just blends together.
Right. So stripping all that away and forcing one dynamically rich instrument to do the heavy lifting, it forces the listener's ear to hyper-focus on the log drum's movement.
So it's almost a psychological trick.
Yeah, completely.
It demands your attention because there's literally nothing else distracting you. The negative space makes the one sound feel massive.
And it becomes the entire identity of the track.
Wow.
I mean, you can recognize an Amapiano anthem instantly just by the bass line alone without a single lyric.
That is wild.
It's a masterclass in minimalism. It proves that you don't need maximum saturation to create maximum impact.
But for that minimalism to work, for one instrument to successfully carry the entire weight of a song's melody and bass on its own, it has to be engineered perfectly.
Oh, absolutely.
If we look at the actual acoustic physics of how this sound is built, it's fascinating.
Let's examine the frequencies. Standard electronic sub-bass sits very low on the frequency spectrum.
Like where exactly?
Generally between 30 and 60 hertz.
Okay, so really deep.
Yeah, and that physical rumble is fantastic in a club environment with giant subwoofers.
Right, you feel it in your chest.
Exactly. But the fatal flaw is device translation.
What do you mean?
Play that same 40 hertz sub-bass on a laptop, a Bluetooth speaker, or, a smartphone, and it physically vanishes.
Right, because the speaker's too small.
The small drivers simply cannot reproduce those low waveforms. The track completely loses its foundation.
And this is where the log drum steps in as this kind of acoustic superhero.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't just sit at the bottom of the spectrum.
Not at all. Producers design the log drum using FM synthesis frequency modulation, which allows them to generate complex harmonic structures.
Okay, break that down for us.
So they start with a sharp attack, so the sound hits clearly and instantly.
Like a real drum strike.
Right. Followed by a controlled decay to prevent the low end from muddying the mix. But crucially, they program in rich overtones.
Overtones.
Yeah. The fundamental frequency might be low, but the harmonics stretch all the way up into the mid and high mid frequencies.
Oh, I get it. It's like the difference between a massive cinematic movie explosion and a cello.
That is a perfect way to put it.
Like if you play that movie explosion on your phone, you lose the rumble and you just get harsh static.
Yep.
But the log drum is the cellos. Even on a cheap phone speaker, you can hear the texture, the pitch, the bow scraping the strings. The richness survives no matter where you are.
Exactly. The higher harmonics trick your ear into perceiving the missing low end.
That is so clever.
The log drum still shakes your chest on a club system, but it translates beautifully to those rattling minibus car stereos and tiny smartphone speakers.
Which is everything today.
Right. Being able to hear the bass perfectly on a phone is the absolute key to global dominance in the modern era.
Which perfectly tees up the next question. Sounding great on a smartphone is one thing, but Amapiano isn't meant for sitting around your house listening on headphones like an audiobook.
No, it's dance music.
Exactly, it's dance music. So how does this specific, highly engineered sound actually force human physiology to react?
Well, the MMR column introduces two really vital concepts regarding the nature of rhythm.
Okay.
The first is ma, which is a Japanese philosophical concept of space or silence.
Space in the music.
Yeah. Western music often views rhythm purely as the sequence of notes being played, like a wall of sound.
Right, constant movement.
Amapiano, however, utilizes the courage not to play.
The courage not to play.
I love that phrasing.
It's powerful. So it's almost like psychological tension. By withholding the beat, the producer is daring the listener's brain to anticipate the next drop, making the silence just as loud as the bass.
Exactly. The architecture of the beat is actively built out of gaps.
Like a structural thing.
Yeah, it's often a kick drum, followed by a pocket of empty space, then the log drum, then more space.
Wow.
That silence is a structural, load-bearing pillar of the groove.
But in traditional EDM, the energy on the dance floor comes from that massive anxiety-inducing buildup,
Oh, yeah, the huge risers.
yeah. The snare roll gets faster and faster, the riser synth peak, and then you get the giant drop.
Right.
If Amapiano is full of silence and actively refuses to build up to a chaotic drop, how does it maintain its energy? Why aren't people just standing around waiting for something to happen?
Because the energy doesn't come from volume or a sudden onslaught of noise. It comes from anticipation and physical momentum.
Okay, tell me more.
This ties directly into the second concept, which is the wobble.
The wah.
Yeah. Amapiano inherited its rhythmic DNA from South African jazz.
Interesting.
In most modern electronic music, MIDI notes are perfectly quantized, meaning they're snapped to a rigid mathematical grid in the production software.
Like everything is perfectly aligned.
Every single hit lands exactly on the microsecond.
Right, the robotic perfection that gives techno or trance its relentless driving feel.
Exactly. But the log drum in Amapiano actively rejects that grid. It swings.
It swings.
Yeah. Producers intentionally pull the MIDI notes slightly off-grid.
Oh, wow.
The bass hits just a fraction of a millisecond ahead of the beat, or it drags slightly behind it.
That completely changes the feel.
It mimics the organic imperfections of a live jazz drummer.
Oh, that makes total sense.
Right.
The silence leaves a hole, and because the log drum is slightly off-kilter, your brain can't just passively track it.
Right.
Your shoulders and knees naturally have to move to fill that hole and physically stabilize the rhythm.
You are actively participating in the rhythm with your own body.
You literally have to dance to it.
Yeah. This specific combination of empty space and mathematical wobble birthed entirely new South African dance styles.
Like, right.
The intricate footwork, the soft body swaying, it's a direct physiological reaction to the conversational, unrobotic bounce of the log drum.
Let's zoom out and look at the whole picture for a
Right.
second. You combine a bass sound engineered with complex overtones that translates perfectly to tiny smartphone speakers
Right.
with an unquantized rhythm that creates physical tension and viral dances.
It's brilliant.
It's the ultimate weaponized recipe for the internet age.
It really is uniquely optimized for the era of TikTok, Instagram Reels, and short-form video.
Because you only have a few seconds to grab someone.
Exactly. The mechanics of traditional dance tracks require time. A producer might build a 45-second intro with just a hi-hat and a kick, slowly layering elements to establish a vibe before the bass line ever drops.
Which is instant death on social media.
Absolutely.
You can't put a 45-second atmospheric intro on a platform where people swipe away in 2 seconds if they aren't hooked.
Amapiano bypasses that entirely. It drops the iconic log drum within the first few seconds.
It just hits you immediately.
Within a single measure of a video starting, the sonic signature is established, the genre is clear, and the dancer is locked into the groove.
And on top of that, it bypasses language barriers.
Completely. A lyric or a joke in Zulu, or even English, might not resonate across cultural borders.
Right. Humor and language are super localized.
But a singing rhythmic bass line, that's universal.
It speaks to everybody.
What started in the local clubs and taxi ranks of Johannesburg is now a genuinely global language. It's played worldwide, incorporated by top-tier producers, and has basically infiltrated the foundations of pop music.
I do have to challenge this narrative just a little bit, though.
Oh, go for it.
Historically, a localized regional genre only goes truly massively global when a gigantic Western pop star jumps on a remix.
Right, we've seen that happen a lot.
They add an English vocal over the beat, and that is what pushes it into the mainstream consciousness.
Are you saying the bass line itself is what crossed the borders first? Yes. The bass line itself is the vector. The law drum is the lead vocalist.
That's a huge shift.
It is. Global pop stars absolutely jumped on the Amapiano wave, but they didn't make the log drum famous.
They were just following the trend.
Exactly. They chased it because it was already dominating the global underground and algorithmic feeds.
Wow.
It proves that low-end frequency and physical groove are infinitely more universal than any spoken language.
The instrument itself became the celebrity. It outgrew the tracks it was in.
Which is exactly why the MMR column argues the Amapiano log drum has joined a very exclusive pantheon of historical genre-defining sounds.
What else is in that pantheon?
Think about the TR-909 drum machine.
Oh, yeah.
That specific piece of hardware defined the entire sound of Chicago House.
Right.
Or the TB-303 synthesizer, which birthed Acid House with its squelchy liquid bass line.
Totally iconic.
Or the aggressive wobble bass that defined dubstep in the late 2000s.
Yeah, you hear that and you instantly know what it is.
These aren't just instruments. They are cultural icons that define an era, and the log drum has secured its seat right next to them.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? We've gone on quite a journey today.
We really have.
We've seen how a fake digital piece of wood, our sonic impossible meat, evolved in the back of vibrating minibus taxis to become a multitasking, smartphone-optimized, jazz-wobbling icon.
It's an incredible story.
It completely rewrote the rules of dance track structure,
Yeah.
proving that the bass line can literally be the lead singer.
Yeah.
Next time you hear that bouncy, deep singing bass on a playlist or a viral video, you'll know exactly what's pulling your strings. You'll hear the acoustic illusion, the FM synthesis, you'll feel the South African jazz wobble.
For me, it's the philosophy behind the sound that really sticks.
Yeah.
Amapiano conquered the world not by adding more noise.
Right.
It didn't overwhelm the listener with layers and volume. It relied on silence.
The negative space.
It utilized empty space and the courage to strip sounds away. And I think in our own lives, whether in our careers or art or just our daily routines, we are constantly trying to add more layers to stand out.
Oh, constantly. We assume density equals value.
Exactly. But what if the secret to making a truly massive, undeniable impact is having the courage to strip things away and letting the silence do the work?
The courage not to play.
Yeah.
That is definitely something to chew on next time you find yourself on a dance floor. Or, honestly, just trying to cut through the noise of your own life. Keep diving deep.